Hi everyone and welcome to your Pilates and mobility session for lower back pain. I am Yasmin Say, founder and owner of Say Fitness Personal Training based in West London. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on all of my other social channels. Okay, let's get started with the session. So today I'm going to be taking you through a curated set of exercises, mixing in Pilates and mobility training to help alleviate the effects of lower back pain. Now, it's known that around 90% of us will experience lower back pain at least once in our lifetime. And for some, lower back pain is a constant or if not chronic problem. So how can Pilates and mobility training help alleviate lower back pain symptoms? Well, through the use of simple curated exercises, we can help first of all by strengthening our core. So those muscles on the front of our abdomen here to really help support that lower back. So by increasing awareness of our posture and creating healthier body mechanics, we can create more length in the spine, therefore relieving pressure into that lower back region, into our lumbar spine, and also creating a more robust posture, whether we're seated or whether we're standing. So it's these movements of creating strength through our core, and what I mean by our core is our entire core framework, mainly supported by our transverse abdominis, that corset-like muscle wrapping around your abdomen, protecting your lower back. Think of it like a weightlifter's belt here. And by pulling those abdominals in, and also by creating movement in the spine the way it's meant to move, through flexion, through extension, through rotation, and also through side bending or lateral flexion. So by creating those healthy body mechanics, we can start to relieve that pressure in the lower back. So what are the causes of lower back pain? Well, you might be surprised to know that actually the causes of lower back pain aren't really at the source of where the lower back sits. So in the lumbar vertebra is probably where you're feeling that pain and that stiffness, that rigidity, but actually where the source of the pain comes from is usually an imbalance in the hips. So let me just demonstrate. So the imbalance in our hips or in our pelvis can usually come from maybe an incorrect posture or placing too much weight onto one side of your body. So this might be, for example, poor posture when you're standing. Let's say you're slumped at a bus stop waiting for your bus to arrive. And we do this subconsciously, so we don't even think about it. Or for example, if you've had a baby recently and you're holding the baby on one side, again, you're placing more pressure onto that hip, causing an imbalance in those hips and more weight to be placed on one side. Lower back pain can also be caused from long periods of sitting. Now, it's often known that Pilates is the antidote to our modern lifestyles. So as you can imagine, with prolonged periods of sitting, the weak glutes and the tightened hamstrings pull your pelvis into what is known as an anterior tilt. Anterior refers to the front of the body. So as you can see here, I'm demonstrating that anterior tilt where the pelvis tilts forwards, creating this what I call the duck back. And by switching off those glutes, they don't engage as much as we like. And so if you're taking part in activities or sports like running or even just walking, then it's going to cause problems further down the line, not only putting pressure, as you can see, into that lower back area, but also it's going to start to travel downwards into the knees, into the ankles. And so that's another reason where you could cause an imbalance in those hips. And anything which is compressing that lower back is going to exacerbate your lower back pain issue. One other problem with the sedentary lifestyle is that it leads us into a more rounded upper back posture known as kyphosis. So you're probably very familiar with this rounded posture, this excessive curvature of the upper mid-spine. And this pulls our whole body forward and affects actually our breathing as well. And it's also that forward head posture that you might be very familiar with called tech neck. So with the sort of excessive curves and then also that rounded sort of arch here of our lower back, putting pressure on our spine when what we're trying to promote, particularly through Pilates, is that more sort of softer S-curve of the spine, just emphasizing the natural curves of our spinal column. Again, so through Pilates, we can create that more natural S-curve known as our neutral spine, the most shock-absorbing position of the spine. So let's get started with the exercises today. The first one we're going to do is a simple roll down, spinal articulation, essentially creating space between those vertebral discs to help relieve pressure in that lower back. So I want you to start at the top of your mat, bringing your feet hip-width apart. Again, just making sure that we're in the correct position here, looking down at the feet, just lifting up on those inner arches slightly, and you'll feel a slight engagement of those glutes. Making sure those shoulders are stacked over those hips, lengthening that tailbone down towards the ground. So you slightly start to feel those abdominals engage, and maybe a slight lift of the pelvic floor too. From here, you're going to reach the arms up towards the ceiling as you inhale. As you exhale, you're going to scoop over like you've got a big barrel in front of you and you're trying to get over to the other side. So just scooping round, taking your time as you round through the vertebra, scooping the lower belly in as you reach down towards the ground. Soften the knees whenever you need to. And don't feel you have to touch the ground here. Taking an inhale, bend the knees, exhale as you tuck the tailbone, scoop the lower belly in, draw in the abdominals, and slowly restack your spine lower, mid, and then upper spine with the head the last thing to come up to standing. Let's do that again. Inhaling, and then exhaling, tuck the chin in, round through the spine, scoop the lower belly in. The chin is coming parallel to the belly button, to the hips, maybe down towards the knees. Soften the knees here. Inhale, bend the knees. Exhale, tuck the tailbone and slowly rolling up through your spine, one vertebrae at a time, with the head the last thing to come up. And you can repeat that another couple of times, just to feel how the spine is feeling. It's a wonderful thing to do first thing in the morning. So feel free to have a go with that and to just feel maybe how tight the hamstrings are feeling, and also to feel if there is any particular stickiness in that lower back. For the next exercise, we're going to come down to the mat. So coming down onto your hands and knees. You will know this as the bird dog, or if you do a lot of Pilates, you will know this as swimming prep. The shoulders are stacked over the wrists and the hips are over those knees. Now from here, you want to create more of a neutral spine here. So just make sure that you're not arching the spine in either direction. Just find that natural curve of the lower back. As you take an inhale, I want you to exhale, extend your right arm and your left leg. Now, to engage the muscles in both your arm and your leg that are extended, I want you to flex that left foot and squeeze into that left glute. From here, I actually want you to squeeze now into your right fist. So you're actually creating a little bit of what is known as a radiation in the body, a little bit of tension. You want to create a nice long line from your hand all the way down to the heel of your foot. Draw that left hip point down a little bit so you square off the pelvis. Taking an inhale here, and then exhale, you release back down. So you're trying to create that nice long line without any movement in the hips or any movement in the spine. Let's go to the other side. Inhale, exhale. Extend left arm, right leg. Again, draw the belly button in. You don't want to be slumped here. Stay strong through that right shoulder as well. Really thinking about extending from the fingers down to the heel of the foot. Your gaze is looking just towards the top of the mat. You're taking an inhale, and then you exhale, release down. Let's do that again. One more time on each side. Exhale, right arm, left leg. Again, squaring off the pelvis. Draw the lower belly in. Thinking of that nice long spine, holding it here for a couple of breaths or so, and then releasing back down. Last time on the other side. And what I really want you to imagine is you're balancing a tray of drinks on the back of your pelvis here. So really thinking about minimal movement in that back. And then returning. Again, I would recommend a good sort of 5 to 6 reps on each side of that exercise. Another exercise, whilst we're in the quadruped position, we're going to just do these little hip twists. So from here, keeping that nice neutral spine again, as you exhale, you're going to pivot on that left knee, turn the left foot out to the side, inhale back in, exhale over to the right side. And here, I'd like you to look at the foot as you pivot from one side to the other. And if you don't feel it, you might need to bring that foot a little bit wider, but you should start to feel that little twisting, that little opening in the hips here. Again, I'd recommend a good 8 to 10 reps in total, just to open up those hips a little bit and help, again, just alleviate any stiffness in that lower back. Coming down onto our backs here, so you can slowly roll down all the way down to your back. Resting your arms down into the mat here, bringing your feet in about hip width apart so you can tickle your heels with your fingers. Resting your fingertips on your hip bones and start to rock the pelvis into those pelvic tilts. You're going to tilt forwards as you arch the lower back, and then you tilt towards you as you flatten that arch of the lumbar spine. So we're coming into that anterior tilt. So anterior, remember, refers to the front of the body. Posterior tilt as it refers to the back of the body. And then in between those two is somewhere where your neutral spine is. Remember that shock absorbing position of the lower back. So we want to make sure that we're just halfway between the two, where your pubic bone and your hip bones are lying parallel to the mat. Again, if I had a glass of water here, I'd want to balance it without it tipping over. Now that I'm in that position, I rest my arms down by my sides, opening up my collarbone, opening up my shoulders here, palms facing up. Just going to make sure also that my head is in the right position, in that neutral position. So a slight tucking of my chin towards the chest. I take an inhale. As I exhale, tuck the tailbone and peel my spine off, coming into my hip rolls here. Squeezing the glutes at the top, taking an inhale, and then exhale, rolling down upper, mid, lower spine in that order. Lengthening my tailbone down towards the mat. Inhale, exhale, peel the spine off the mat, sending my hips up to the ceiling, squeezing my glutes at the top. Inhale, exhale, roll down. Let's do that one more time. And I really want you to emphasize here this ski slope shape of the body at the top, where your knees are at the top and your shoulders are down at the bottom. My glutes are squeezed because otherwise I'm going to place pressure into my lower back to push my hips up, which I don't want. Now from here, turn your palms down so you're creating a little bit more stability for your body here by using your arms. As you exhale, squeeze into the left glute, bring your right leg up to tabletop. Inhale down. Exhale, your left. So this is a simple pelvic stability exercise, which is very good at addressing those imbalances, which is what Pilates helps us do, addresses those imbalances in the body, particularly those muscular imbalances. Hinging from the hips, make sure that pelvis isn't tipping from one side to the other. Let's just do one more on the other side. And then let's squeeze those hips up one more time, drawing those ribs in as well, engaging the abdominals as you exhale, like you're crushing a grape underneath each of your vertebrae, upper, mid, lower spine, and lengthening the tailbone down to the mat. And from here, you can bring your feet wide and rock those knees from side to side. For the next exercise, called ab prep or curl up, we're going to be strengthening the abdominals, but maintaining that neutral spine, okay? So that neutral spine is that natural curve underneath our lower back. So I'm going to first of all make sure that I am in that neutral position to start off with. So by placing one hand underneath my lower back, and just applying a little bit of pressure to that hand, I now am not going to add any more pressure to my hand. Effectively, I don't want to lose that natural curve. I place the other hand behind my head just to support it, so I'm not overusing the neck muscles when I flex up. Now, we start with a slight tucking of the chin towards the chest, very slight, as if you've placed an apple underneath your chin and you are not going to crush it, or are you going to lose it? So, a slight lengthening of the back of the neck as we inhale. As we exhale, we flex the spine off the mat, looking towards the knees. My head, shoulders, and the tips of my shoulder blades are off the mat. I take an inhale here, and then I exhale as I release back down. Now, I didn't place any more pressure onto my right hand underneath my lower back, so I'm going to try again. Exhale. I'm ensuring I'm utilizing my abdominals. There is no doming happening through my abdominals, and I'm really making sure that there is that natural curve constantly underneath my lower back. Inhale, and then exhale, lower down. We're going to do this 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, abdominals working. Exhale, lower down. You've got 1 more here. Inhale, exhale. Compressing the abdomen, drawing belly button to spine. Inhale, and then exhale as I lower down. And again, for that exercise, you can repeat that another 5 times to really emphasize again, maintaining that neutral curve, maintaining that neutral spine, and really working the abdominals. Coming back down to the mat again for the next exercise. Now, bringing those heels in again, feet are hip width apart. You can maintain your neutral spine here, or otherwise, you can draw your abdominals in, tuck the tailbone under slightly as you draw your pubic bone towards your navel and imprint your lower back, okay? This is just to protect the lower back if you do have that excessive curvature of your lower back in your natural posture. Arms down by your sides, and as you inhale, you bring one leg to tabletop. Exhale, using your abdominals, bring the other leg to tabletop. Your knees are stacked over your hips. Your ankles are in line with your knees. We're going to come into toe taps here. So, maintaining neutral or your imprinted spine. As you exhale, toe tap your right foot down towards the ground. Inhale, up. Exhale, toe tap your left foot and then up. We're hinging from the hips here. We want to maintain that 90-degree angle of our legs. Almost imagining that we've got a knee brace attached to each knee here. So again, we're looking at around 8 to 10 reps in total. Working into those hip flexors as well. You've got 2 more here. Last one. And then keeping those legs in tabletop, I want you to bring your arms up to just in line with your shoulders, with your palms facing in. Again, making sure you draw those ribs in. Keep that spine very still here. No arching in that lower back. You are still maintaining neutral or imprint. Flexing those feet. So very similarly to the bird dog we did earlier, we're now going to take this into dead bug. As you exhale, right arm, left leg extends, and then inhale, drawing it back to center. Exhale over to the other side, and then inhale back to center. So really thinking about length from the feet down to the fingertips, and really pressing away with the heels to get a little bit of activation in the glutes as well. Again, making sure you're checking that that lower back isn't arching. You're drawing that belly button into the lower spine. Let's go for one more on each side. Exhale. And then last one. Exhale. And then arms to come down by your sides. One foot down and then the other foot down. Coming into a different exercise that isn't probably in your usual Pilates repertoire, but this is where I like to intertwine mobility exercises into my Pilates classes. I'm going to take you through the frog squat. Now, this position already might send shivers down your spine, literally, but we're going to work the frog squat because it's a great exercise to open up the hips. And as we know with hip openers particularly, that helps alleviate lower back pain. So our hips halfway down the body, guys, the most powerful mechanism we have, yet the most underused. So we start off in this deep squat position, but the entry for the frog squat is going to be different for everyone. So whether you're down here or whether you're more here, your entry can still be the same. Elbows on the insides of those knees, opening up those hips. That's where those elbows will stay. Palms are together, opening up the chest here. Try and maintain, again, that nice long spine. I will show you a different angle in a second. From here, as you exhale, you're going to extend those legs fully or as much as you can. And then inhale, you come back into that deep squat position. Exhale, extending the legs, and then inhale. It will start to ache. There'll be a few little muscle aches as you do this more religiously. I would recommend starting off with 30 seconds, building up to 1 minute. To show you from the side, you want to think of that nice long spine. So you might be here when you start, but eventually by opening up those chest muscles, by creating more movement in those vertebral discs, you can create that more neutral spine when you come into your frog squat. But to be perfectly honest, as a starting point, I would just work on the general mechanics of this movement, just working through the hamstrings, keeping those elbows insides of the knees at all times. So there is your frog squat. So the next exercise I'm going to take you through for a little bit more hip mobility is hip CARs. Now, CARs stands for controlled articular rotations. It's a fancy term in the mobility world used for hip circles. Now, it might be useful to have a block or a yoga block or even a book to just lean against your other leg. So let me just show you. What you're going to do here is you're going to bring that block against your right leg. You're going to come onto all fours, shoulders stacked over the wrists, hips over the knees. You're going to keep that left knee at a right angle here as you start to draw circles all the way round. Imagine there's a pen attached to your kneecap as you draw circles. Now, as you can see, it actually is a lot tougher than it looks because what I'm trying to avoid is to tilt my hips one way and put all my weight into that right-hand side and knock the block over. So when I'm placing it just there, it just gives me a little bit of a reminder to keep those hips stable. So when I've done around 5 or 6 circles one direction, I'm going to go around the other direction. Again, keeping that spine as still as you can, and also a reminder to keep those arms straight. So you're going to do 5 to 6 full rotations in each direction on each leg, utilizing the block or just being aware if you are distributing too much weight over onto the other side. Moving on to cat stretches. So another wonderful spinal articulation here. Shoulders are stacked over the wrists, hips are over your knees. Now from here, you're lengthening into a more neutral position again, so without lengthening too much or extending the spine or rounding the spine. So let's start in that neutral position, shoulders away from the ears. Now from here, you're going to extend the spine slightly, lifting the tailbone and the crown of the head. As you exhale, tucking that tailbone and start to articulate from the tailbone to the lower back, to the mid, to the upper, and then the head comes in last, rounding that spine like an angry cat towards the ceiling. Now from here, you take an inhale to pause, and then as you exhale, you start to articulate from the tailbone, lower back, mid back, upper back, and then lengthen the neck and the head away. Let's do that one more time. Take an inhale, exhale from the tailbone, articulate from the tailbone. It's very hard to do this quite segmented cat-cow exercise here. But again, what I would recommend is through using a mirror perhaps or filming yourself, you can just see your progress over a course of a few weeks here. Inhale here, and then exhale slowly from the tailbone. Start to articulate back to that neutral position with the head and the neck to extend last. And again, first thing in the morning would be really great to be doing that type of exercise. And again, you want to be looking at about sort of 3 to 4 articulations in total. Sticking to all fours, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, neutral spine. We're going to work the core a little bit harder in this plank hover. You're going to bring the legs together, inner thighs connected, like you're squeezing a piece of paper in between those thighs that you won't let go of. Tucking those toes, and as you exhale, pull the belly button in and hover those knees just about half an inch or an inch off the ground. Now, holding it here is enough. Really, really thinking about that abdominal engagement, drawing belly button to lower spine. And your gaze, again, should be looking somewhere to the top of your mat. You can hold these for 10 seconds at a time and then lower down with control when you're ready. If you would like to take it a little bit more challenging, then you can come back into that plank hover. And as you exhale, you can lift the left foot off the ground and then inhale down, exhale, right foot off the ground. So this is again challenging your pelvic stability here because the emphasis will be placed on one side of the body and then the other. And those abdominals have to work super hard to keep that pelvis and that spine still. And then again, place those knees down when you're ready. And then just rotate the wrists, because it's quite a wristy exercise as well. The next exercise I'm going to show you to help alleviate lower back pain is the side plank. Now, working the lateral line of the body is really, really important in your training. Not only to help balance out the front and the back side of the body, but also bilaterally the left and right hand side. So again, as you can probably imagine, that will help us alleviate those problems with those imbalances in the pelvis and the hips, but also strengthening those oblique muscles, those internal and external oblique muscles, or those side abdominals. So I'm going to show you the technique of the side plank, that I think is a lot more stable and whereby you could hold it for a longer period of time, should you so wish to. So you're going to come down onto your forearm here. Start on our right-hand side. The right forearm, the shoulder is stacked over the elbow, and it's your top leg coming in front of the bottom leg. From here, I'd like you to bring your hand on your hip rather than extending it up to the ceiling for now. As you press into your forearm, you lift those hips, and again, thinking about a nice long spine here. I want you to make sure that your hips are facing me, so that again, you're not tipping those hips backwards. And thinking of, again, from crown of head down to tailbone, nice long line in your spine here. And here you can hold it. Again, you might want to progress 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. You might want to extend that top arm to the ceiling. Really making sure you press into those feet and you squeeze the glutes and the inner thighs together. And then lower down with control when you're ready. If you want to modify it, you bring your knees together and you're doing the whole thing on your knees. Squeezing the hips up, and again, you can extend your arm up to the ceiling and making sure you're strong through that shoulder as well, through the right stabilizing shoulder. And then lower down with control. So again, progress as you feel you need to, 10, 20, 30 seconds, no longer than a minute, in all honesty, on both sides. We're going to finish off with a set of exercises which are all too familiar for those of you who have done Pilates classes before. It's a series of clamshells. These are all going to work on strengthening your glute medius, which is one of your gluteal muscles that really is responsible for stabilizing your pelvis. So let's come down onto our left-hand side. You can rest your head into your hand here, but really what's more important is correcting your side lying position. Now you want those hips stacked and those knees stacked. Those knees are forward of the pelvis here, and your heels are tucked behind. You want to make sure you're in that neutral position, that pocket of air, that natural curve. So if you haven't quite got it, you can bring your hand to your hip and then lengthen your hip away, creating length in the sides of the waist. Your hand can be here or it can be on the top of your pelvis. I will explain why it might be useful to have it on the top of your pelvis if you are new to these exercises. Now from here we're going to squeeze the heels and lift that top knee up and then lower. Squeezing and then lower. I would like you to squeeze those heels together to create a little bit of resistance here. We're only working with our body weight, of course. But also, if you're not really feeling it, I want you to place your hand on top of your thigh and almost create some resistance there by pressing down into the thigh. So now your thigh and your leg has to lift up against the pressure of your hand. Why do we place the hand on the hip? Because what we're trying to avoid is rocking the pelvis backwards. Yeah, we want to keep everything nicely stacked and in alignment at all times here. Once you've done 10 repetitions or so, you can then bring the feet up together and continue. You can already see that my range of motion here is increased. I can open up that top leg and abduct it a little bit further, but I'm still very wary of the position of my pelvis. I'm making sure my core is working by maintaining my neutral position at all times. When you've done 10 reps of those, bring your legs down and then you're going to lift that top leg on its own. Now again, we want to make sure here that the hip, the knee and the ankle remain in the same line at all times. And again, if you're not quite feeling the resistance here, you could add a little bit more resistance by adding a resistance loop band around your thighs. After you've done 10 reps, you hover that leg up here just about in line with the hip and you start drawing circles. I want you to imagine there's a pen attached to your kneecap again and you're drawing circles on a piece of paper in front of you. When you've done 10 reps, you're going to go over to the other side. And again, be controlled with the movements. Everything in Pilates is done with a lot more control here. And then from here, holding this position, and then you're going to extend the leg, and then you're going to bend the knee. Now, there is a whole set of exercises you can do with clamshells. I am giving you the most effective ones that I know of, that I include quite regularly in my classes. When you've done your last one here, you're going to hold it in this position. Just holding that position, you should feel the burn into that glute med. Hold for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release down. Give yourself a good tap, and let's go over to the other side. So coming over to the other side, again, making sure you're in the correct position here. Hips stacked, knees stacked, and that you've got that little gap, that little pocket of air underneath your waist. From here, let's come into that first exercise, the classic clamshell, squeezing the heels together and opening that top knee. Now, if you know this is your weaker side, like this side is for me, I might add a few more repetitions just to balance it out a little bit, because I know I will have to work this side harder. That's fine to do with body weight, so feel free to add more repetitions for any of the exercises we've done today on one side if you know it's your weaker side. Lifting the feet up and then continue. Again, I'm just keeping an eye on that top hip, making sure my hips don't roll back. And then from here, we bring those feet down and we just lift the top leg. Keeping the alignment. Again, control it. Imagine that you're moving your leg through a really thick, sticky substance like honey. Last 3, 2, and then 1. Holding it here, we draw those circles. Again, make them small circles. It's just the knee that's drawing those circles in front of you. And then change direction. Nice and controlled all the way through. For 3, and 2, and 1. From here, we extend the leg, and then we rebend. And we extend, and we rebend. Again, it should be burning now. Should feel the effects. That's what I love about these exercises. It really hits the spot exactly where you should be feeling it. And then 1 more. And then we hold this position. We hold it in its hover for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release down, giving yourself a tap. I hope you've enjoyed my specially selected series of exercises today to help alleviate lower back pain. I have certainly found them very useful for not only myself, but also for my clients, and incorporating them in my Pilates classes over the years. If you enjoyed this workout, then you might want to check out my pelvic stabilization exercise video linked here. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you on the mat soon. Thanks again.